talking about magnetic skyrmion nanodisks.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. And first of all, I'd like to thank the organizer for inviting me up. So I remember I visited Los Alamos 2 years ago. But that time I was almost denied entry because I didn't bring my passport with me. So it's safe to have a workshop here in San Jose, especially in this kind of nice community. Thank you for the nice presentation. So today I'll talk about the magnetic skyrmions in Nanodisks. So this is outline of my talk. After a very brief introduction, I will focus on the main topic of my talk. And in 10 minutes, I will talk about the thermodynamic topology that has some overlap with the multi-phase talk this morning. Okay. So it's good to have Rocket as the chairman as well as the Jiadong. So let me start with a very brief introduction here. So skyrmion is a topological tester, and most of the topological magnetic system can trace back to the discussion of the topology of the magnetic field. There are two topologically distinct structures. One is this spin-polarized state, and the other is this hedgehog state. And this hedgehog state can construe a magnetic field originated from monopoles being at the center. While for the spin-polarized state, there is no monopole due to this Gauss law. So the presence and absence of magnetic monopole somehow tells the differences of topology of these two objects. But if we put the hedgehog on top of a 2D sheet and assign each thing on the sphere onto the point sitting at the same line connecting to the North Pole. So this is the so-called stereographic projection. And after this projection, you will end up with a new type skyrmion on this sheet. If we perform a 90-degree rotation about the center, and you will get this small type skyrmion. And the one-to-one correspondence between a skyrmion and a hedgehog is described by this topological chart. As I said, I will talk about the nanodisks, and we also have done some extensive works on skyrmions in confined geometry. But why are we interested in confined geometry? Okay. So the reason is twofold. First of all, from the application perspective, we like the community is trying to push the skyrmion into skyrmion-based racetrack memories. So first of all, we need to make sure that the skyrmion can be squeezed into nanostructures, no matter if it's racetrack or logic gates. And the other thing is from the fundamental science point of view, if we put the skyrmion in the confined geometries, and the skyrmion can be more stabilized. So this is the earliest work by Topological. They wrote aerodynamic thin film with different thickness, and found when the thickness is getting smaller and smaller in the base of skyrmion is getting high. And actually, the same scenario works in the skyrmions in nanometers. So this is our observation of skyrmions in very narrow nanometers. So it is pretty challenging to experimentally because due to the presence of fringe at the bottom. And my collaborator, I cannot make it because just after he accepted the invitation, he found his passport is about to be expired. So his way out is to put platinum, amorphous platinum, to attach amorphous platinum to the aerodynamic nanodisk, and this fringe can be greatly expressed. So that's how we end up with the successful imaging of skyrmions, a single chain of skyrmions in nanometer of 1/30. And so here, our ribbon has a thickness about 6-8 nanometer. Okay. If you go back here for 6-8, if it's thin film, the skyrmion can be only observed way above about 200 kelvin. But in this experiment, it is done at 100 kelvin. So that means you can find one more dimension, you get skyrmion more stabilized. So this is those three images of both the helix and the skyrmion. And the scenario works in a new material that we recently discovered. So this is the alloy molybdenum nitride. So iron molybdenum nitride is a ferromagnet. Copper molybdenum nitride is antiferromagnet. And rhodium molybdenum nitride is a non-central symmetric supermetal. If you put them together, you can end up with this curve. So, but my experimental collaborator is not that good at single crystal synthesis, and example quality is relatively poor. But even within these very small grains, we can still successfully observe skyrmions. So let's go back to the nano ribbon. So previously we discussed the 130 a ribbon of 130 nanometer wide. We can also carry out experiment for different width. And interesting, we found at 100 Kelvin, no matter how wide your ribbon is, if we increase the field from 0 field, you always end up with a single channel skyrmion. So here, this is pretty wide, but still we only have a single chain along the boundary as well as the boundaries. But if we do the experiment at higher temperature, we will end up with a skyrmion crystal. So this discrepancy between the behavior at high temperature and low temperature is something related. It is because at high temperatures, the thermodynamics is important. And the close packing of the skyrmion is the state that minimizes the free energy. And at low temperature, the magnetization history matters. And each skyrmion is nucleated from one helix. So that's why the number of skyrmion is the same as the number of helix, which is proportional to the length of the region. But here it is proportional to the area. And the same thing happens for the nanodisk. Using the same method, we observe skyrmions in very small nanoribbons. Nanodisks. So here we will have 3 skyrmions. And the number of skyrmions in the disk is proportional to the circumferences of the disk at low temperature, and is proportional to the radius squared at high temperature. This is again consistent with what we observe for nanodisk. And based on these advances of this observation of skyrmion nanodisk, we can discuss some theoretical models. So here we employ the micromagnet simulations. What we do is we prepare 2 skyrmions in the disk. Then we apply an in-plane magnetic field to see what the effect of the in-plane magnetic field. So the consequence is the following. Once we apply the field, the skyrmion will start rotating. And eventually, these 2 skyrmions will reorientate themselves into parallel, into a state that is parallel with the in-plane field. And this is a simulation. So once the field is applied, the skyrmion rotates as a damped torsional pendulum. But there is inertia. And the rotation angle is a function of time, and it's well described by this quantity. And this tau is a characteristic time scale for the relaxation. And this tau is inversely proportional to period damping. It is expected, and it's also proportional to a quantity that we call it the moment of inertia of these crystals. Then you come to the one of the main interesting results of my talk. As I said, we successfully observed skyrmions in disks with different radius. Then the question is, what if we further reduce the radius? Can we still get skyrmions? And the actually, in Bogdanov's earliest work, his original work on skyrmions, he not only proposed the skyrmions, but also this skyrmion. So the difference is from the center to the peripheral, the spin rotates by angle 2 pi in skyrmion, rather than angle pi in conventional skyrmion. But we can generalize the rotation angle to arbitrary values, and we end up with multi-rotations. So there are structures that consist of concentric helical stripes, and we put targets. It looks like a target. But there are several theoretical predictions of target skyrmion, but it has never ever been realized yet. That is, of course, these target skyrmions are kind of matter stable state, or it can be only stabilized by a very large magnitude. But we truly observe the target skyrmion at 0 field. So this is the point. So our point is the thickness makes a difference, because in all previous simulations, people only employed strictly 2D nanodisk. So we simulated a nanodisk with a radius 1/16, but with a finite thickness of 90 nanometers, which is comparable to the skyrmion size. So this is the result. This is the upper surface, and the color wheel stands for in-plane magnetization, and truly rotates. This is bottom view, and this is side view. So along the disk, this target skyrmion is truly stacked, but there was some surface twist at the two surfaces. As I said, we observed 0 field skyrmion, and at 0 field, there is no energy difference between pointing up and pointing down. So two configurations that are time reversal to each other share the same energy. So that's why there are two types of the target skyrmion. One has central polarization up, with one with the central polarization down. So they have exactly the same energy. And this is also observed by experimental collaborator. So they used electron holography and successfully observed 0 field, 2 types of 0 field target sources without polarization. And one can even switch this target skyrmion from one type to the other. This is again micromagnet simulations. So what we do is we prepare one type of target skyrmion. Then we apply field. We gradually turn off field, and the field direction is along the parallel with the center, so that we get more and more down area. But if we further increase the magnet field, this center skyrmion will collapse into a conventional skyrmion. So this is the dynamical process. You see center skyrmion and smaller and smaller, and on the side, the central core is collapsed, because the central core tends to be anti-parallel with the external. Actually, this polarization switch is accompanied by the emergence of log point. You see, when the time goes by, so this is the side view. Okay? So you see that the center gets narrower and narrower, and then all of a sudden, a pair of log points will emerge. And these two log points are propagated in the opposite direction, pushed to the surfaces, and we realize this switch. Then if we gradually turn off the magnet field, target skyrmion of the opposite polarization. So this experiment shows that probably in the future we don't need ferromagnetic and skyrmion to encode 1 and 0. We can use the target skyrmions of 2 polarizations to carry out this job. But interestingly, so here, as I said, our magnetic field is applied parallel with the center spin. If we apply magnetic, so this is the previously is the theoretical magnetic simulations, and this skyrmion switch is also realized experimentally. But this is the Lorentz type image. As most of you know that in Lorentz TM, we do not have access of out magnetization. We cannot trace the polarization. But for the same material, the handedness is fixed. Once the polarization is switched, the plane rotation sense will be altered. So here is the center skyrmion is rotating that direction, and after magnetic field is applied, then it reverses its direction. So that we are confident that the center polarization is also switched. But if we apply magnetic field in the opposite direction, there will be no switch. So this switch is truly one way. We can only apply this magnetic field at in the appropriate direction in order to enable the switch. With here, you go from the target skyrmion, we will end up with the same targets. But here, at the initial stage, when you apply a slight magnetic field, actually the skyrmion radius is getting larger a little bit. So this is the radius of the skyrmion as a function of magnetic field. It's a non-monotonic field. So that is something related to the fact that the edge twist is a little bit flexible than the central skyrmion. So we already have the target skyrmion, and our goal is to switch the target skyrmion without magnetic field. In general, we don't need magnet. We don't want magnetic field in any devices. So we successfully switch the target skyrmion by electric current. But this is kind of expected. Our goal is there a way to switch the target skyrmion by something like microwave resonance. That would, in order to enable this the microwave switch, we will first of all need to study the spin wave modes of the targets. So this is the spin wave modes. So this is the frequency. There are so many peaks. Data tells us that there are so many resonant modes for a target skyrmion. So, but what we do is we increase the magnetic field. Once the magnetic field is increased, then the number of the resonant modes is getting smaller and smaller, so that we can get control of which is the dynamical pattern of each mode. So particularly for 0.4 Tesla, you have only 4 peaks, only 4 resonant modes. So these are the images of these 4 modes. This is A mode, this is D mode, and we will say that they're almost identical when there are 2 peaks. So they're identical for the upper surface, but remember our target skyrmion has finite thickness. So there were some modulations along the Z direction. So this is the difference between these 2 modes. So we also made a layered resolved dynamical patterns. And you will see for this one, there are some red, blue oscillations. There are more modes in the Z direction. But for this one, it's almost identical layer by layer. And for this one, the same. Then, how much time I have?
You have about 9 minutes.
Okay. So now I will talk about our other simulations of 2D magnets. Margaret has mentioned a little bit this morning. So our motivation starts from this very earliest work on skyrmion. In this Nature paper, there is a phase diagram on the color calculations. Okay, so this magnetic field, this temperature, this is skyrmion. But this phase diagram is derived by taking the snapshots during updates. So there is no any auto parameter is calculated in this calculation. So we know that each skyrmion has one topological charge. Why not just calculate the topological charge to see what is the distribution of the topological charge in the same phase diagram? So what we do is to employ the same Hamiltonian Heisenberg interaction, DM, and Zeeman interaction. And this DM vector is pointing from one spin to the other. That is particularly true for D20 components. But here, in order to calculate the topological charge, so this is the definition of topological charge. We are interested in high temperatures, where the continuum limit may not be valid. So instead of the continuum definition of the topological charge, we employ the the lattice definition of that. So the way out is we simulate a square lattice, and we triangulate the square lattice. Okay. We divide it into some triangles. For each triangle, there are 3 spins sitting at the 3 vertices. What we need to do is just to calculate the solid angle tangent by the 3 spins and sum them over. Divided by 4 pi and we end up with the topology. And the solid angle enclosed by 3 spins is calculated by this element. Particularly, if these 3 spins are almost parallel to each other, this can be simplified as something like that. So this is the scalar cavity that has been extensively discussed here. So we calculate the topological charge and say field temperature baseline. Okay, so this was originally reported, and what we observed is something like that. I expect there's some differences because topological charge is rotational symmetric. It cannot be served at the other parameter. But what I didn't expect is the difference is so dramatic. Okay. And Margaret has done a very, very beautiful analysis around the skyrmion crystal phase. And we are more interested in the high field phase. So we fix our magnetic field that high and calculate the topological charge as a function of the temperature. And what we get is something like this. So that tells us that both low temperature and very high temperature are topologically trivial state. The topological charge is 0. That is because at low temperature, it is the spin polarized state. But at a very high temperature, it's completely random. There is no topological charge. But in between, there is a significant upturn of the topological charge. And we also analyze the finite size effect. It's almost immune to the finite size effect. So it's truly robust phenomenon. We analyze the spin configurations at this point. This is the real space image of this is the spin configuration. It's completely random. We perform the Fourier transformation of this state, and we only found the bright spot at the gamma point. It shows that the randomness is truly uniform. We calculate the topological charge. Again, there's no pattern at all. It's completely random. But for this point, it is skyrmion crystal phase, and it is reasonable that there is topological charge. And from the Fourier equation, we get, in addition to the gamma point bright spot, there were also hexagonal patterns. And this is the distribution of the topological charge. which is also triangles. So that tells us that this upturn of the topological charge is completely of local fluctuation region. And the physical picture is very simple. As I said, our topological charge is a summation of the solid angles. Okay. For each triangle, due to the presence of DM interaction, the three spins are handled. But based on this configuration, we can prepare another configuration, which is time reversal to that. That is, we reverse all the spins. Okay, reverse all these three spins. So these two configurations has opposite topological charge. Because this topological charge will involve three spins. Okay, each spin gets a minus sign, so that's why we opposite. But in the absence of magnetic field, they have exactly the same energy, because both Heisenberg and DM interaction involves two spins. So they have opposite topological charge, same energy, they have same chance of appearance, that's why it's stable. But if we apply magnetic field, the energy degeneracy between these two configurations is lifted. If they have opposite charge, topological charge, that's why it has net topological charge at high fields. And based on this simple physical picture, we can also do a hand-waving calculation of what is the average topological charge for each triangle. Okay. So this is one triangle out of the lattice. The S2 and F3 are not neighboring to each other. Okay, so there is no interaction between these two, but there is interaction between S1 and S2 and S1 and F3. So this is the energy. Heisenberg DM. Okay. Then we calculate the average topological charge. It is defined by this. Okay, we are integrating over S1, S2, S3. Okay. What we can do is we analyze the large temperature. At a very large temperature, this exponent, the argument of this exponent is small, and we can expand it. We expand it in this way, so the zero order gives zero contribution. Because we are going to integrate over, say, ds1. Okay, so then 1s1, so integrate over to get 0. In the first order, again, it's 0. The lowest non-zero contribution is the third order. So that's why the topological charge for each triangle is proportional to d squared over d squared h over temperature Q. So this is also reasonable because the topological charge involves three spins. It breaks time reversal symmetry. Okay. So that's why it must be proportional to magnetic field. But topological charge is rotational symmetric. It respects the inversion symmetry. And DM interaction breaks the inversion symmetry. So that's why we need 2 times. Okay? We need square of the DM interaction in order to make inversion symmetry small. And this is also consistent with our numerical simulations. Topological charge proportional to the magnetic field and proportional to DM squared. So this is just some hand waving algorithm. What we're doing is we also perform the field theoretical approach. Okay. So we employ the so-called CP1 formalism. So this is the Hamiltonian in the continuum limit. What we do is to write this n, the spin, in terms of 2 component boson. Okay. So we will end up with this kind of non-abelian CP1 form. And this A is the emerging magnetic field whose curvature is exactly the topological charge density. So what we do is we calculate this partition function, effective model, the standard effective model analysis. Okay. Then we integrate out this B part. We should end up with the free energy of this A emergent emergent wave field. But this action must be Gaussian invariant. There are only 2 possible terms that are Gaussian invariant. One is this magnetic field stream. The other is external magnetic field non-production to the internal magnetic field, which is the topological charge tensor. So we end up with this scaling. At high temperature, this is not relevant, so it covers what we have for each one. And we also do the topological charge for any paramagnetic triangle lattice. We observe the same phenomenon. I probably don't have time for that. And last thing, okay, let me comment a little bit about the experimental observation. The topological charge is related to the topological Hall effect. And Charles asked whether there is topological Hall effect for this model. The answer is yes or no. For model-wise, theoretical-wise, it is true. Okay? But in reality, our B20 compound is itinerant magnet. This is Monte Carlo calculation. It's based on the assumption that the local spin is persistent from low temperature to high temperatures. But for itinerant magnetism, at high temperatures, there will be no local magnetizations. So that's why there will be no such kind of additional topological charge outside the Skyrmion space. But the local magnetization, local spin is robust in insulating material. Okay. So in insulating material, but there is no topological Hall. So that's why we propose the thermal Hall effect. And this is the previous report by Hans group. They work on this triangle lattice, the DM interaction. What they found is the thermal Hall activity is not zero, even above the new temperature. Okay, so this is the thermal Hall connectivity of a paramagnet that it might be closely related to what we have. So this is the conclusion, and this is the collaborators, including some previous collaboration with Nagasa and Han, that we developed these models and this experiment, and electron holography is carried out in PDM. And this is my team at the University of Cambridge. Thank you so much for your attention. That's right. Maybe not. Maybe not, because it is not a simple multi-ring structure. Okay. So this target skyrmion can be understood as a composite of a central conventional skyrmion and the edge twist. Okay. So that's why we have two rings. And the edge twist is not a complete period of the helical structure. Okay. So we tried a large disk, but I think the helical phase will not see. That's right, that's right. Yes.
So you show that the information of the skyrmion chain in this Y and
right.
as full picture. I was wondering why skyrmions prefer to form on one side of the river instead of random formation on size.
Yeah, so that is because there is the conical phase. Okay, and in the presence of conical phase, the skyrmion will be attracted to the boundary. Okay. Yeah, so there are two boundaries, but the skyrmion skyrmion chain will firstly form along one boundary. Then once you further increase the magnetic field, this skyrmion chain will be shifted towards the center. I think Nikolai from Stefan's group has very beautiful macromagnetic simulations on that, okay, by including multi-neighbor interactions. Yeah, we tried previously, but with no success.
I have a question. So basically, since the edge twisting is very important for your skyrmion, we do not expect this object for thin films, right?
For thin film, no. Right, but for ribbons there is.
Okay.
Yeah, so there were two counterpropagating some structures along the boundary. Yes.
So you showed that you have these excitations and then in the different layers it looks different, right? Do you see also about the Z direction when you have a static configuration of twist or so?
The twist only appear around the boundary. Yeah, so there is no twist in the interior. In the interior, it's just a very boring, very simple section.
So what breaks this twist?
Yeah, so that is because the imbalance of DM interaction. And so this applies in many constricted geometries. Because outside this structure, there is no spins, and DM interaction is not balanced. That's why there is some additional structures.
Okay, if not, let's hand Jiadong. We'll take a short break of 15 minutes and come back at 3:30.
Jeffrey, good.
I think it's because
The boy and the talks. We take care of the boy and the talk.
Sit here.
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah. Because the center of skyrmion can be both absent or present. So there's actually some noise and some oscillations. It was still oscillating. No, it was oscillating, and the oscillating continues. Yes. Then somehow, no matter whether you disturb it in the center or not, and the same. Noise, something like that. Yes. That would be why the lower edge. I think it's just like you put a ball on top, so you can fall down in either way. Once skyrmion is one boundary will fall skyrmion. Yeah. I don't think there is any symmetry breaking of this after
Yeah.
and down to one. Maybe it's I have no idea. Yeah. The dominant role is actually